So when we did this for round 1, 2K predicted some pretty crazy upsets. So they're going to do the same thing here. We're going to find out as we are going to simulate the second round here. We've already gone through the first game of each series. And we're going to start in the Western Conference because for these type of things, for some reason, people always like to start in the East. The West is significantly better, so let's show them their respect first. Can the Utah Jazz make a series against the Warriors? I think in real life this series could be interesting because, one, Utah is a fantastic defensive team. Rudy Gobert's a beast. But Golden State with their offensive attack of, 3 of the top 20 players in the league or whatever, including Draymond Green, not too far down. It's going to be tough for George Hill and the boys, but a balanced offensive attack, a very well-coached team, as well as some clutch play from perhaps a guy like Joe Johnson. Who knows, maybe the size of Rudy Gobert and all that other stuff could really push Golden State to the brink. We're going to have to find out. Now on to the Eastern Conference, where the Celtics already have a 1-0 lead on the Wizards, and if Markieff Morris is not going to be healthy for the rest of that series, I think the Celtics could run through the Wizards in maybe even 5 games because the Wiz already do have depth problems, and that's a strength for the Celtics. Of course, if they're going to hit 1,000,000 3-pointers, that'll help them out too. But for the sake of this, everyone's going to be healthy. Morris will be playing, and he might not be a star power forward, but he can play some defense and hit some outside shots. And when you have that combined with John Wall, who is one of the best point guards in the league, Bradley Beal and his scoring, that should be a good series, the Wizards and the Celtics. Hopefully everyone's healthy for it, of course. And now for what could be the series of the second round, the Houston Rockets and the San Antonio Spurs. Talk about 2 drastically different teams. Houston is offense first, and as long as the defense is good enough, they'll take it. Shooting 1,000,000 3-pointers, living through the James Harden pick and roll. It's going to be very interesting because I think one thing with these 2 teams is they both have great depth. So when the Spurs go to their second units and they have Pau Gasol or Dwayne Dedmon, depending on who's starting, as well as Ginobili and Jonathan Simmons and David Lee and Patty Mills, the Rockets are going to go to Lou Williams, Eric Gordon, Nene. They're strong there. It's going to be very interesting for that one. And can the Raptors pull off what would be a ridiculous upset against the Cleveland Cavaliers? I think their moves at the deadline were centered around that, acquiring a guy like PJ Tucker, who is one of the best on-ball defenders in the NBA today, as well as Serge Ibaka, whose defense has stepped up since he went from Orlando to Toronto. His defense slipped a little bit with the Magic, but now that he's on a winning team, he's playing really well for them. And for the Cavaliers, the 3-headed monster of LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Love, that's going to be extremely difficult to beat for anybody. But the Raptors do have a pretty complete roster, so who knows? I would definitely not pick them to beat the Cavs, but I think they could give them a headache, potentially. We'll see how 2K feels about this. Let's hit the simulate button, and you will see that as we go through, all of the favorites won. Well, at least in terms of seeding. We had 3 Game 7s and 1 went to a Game 6. So we got to talk about this one. The Warriors had a pretty balanced offensive attack by their standards, as 3 guys nearly had over 20 points. Even so, the Jazz still pushed them to a Game 7. I have to assume that in this series, the Jazz would have made the game a little ugly, perhaps slowed it down, as they have, I think, the slowest pace in the NBA. But even then, if you are a great shooting team, you can play in pretty much any sort of a predicament, so Clay, KD, and Curry. It's just damn difficult to go through. George Hill actually went bananas, and Joe Johnson was the second leading scorer. I'm a big fan of George Hill. Perhaps the biggest one in the world, and even then, him averaging 20 points and 7 assists against the Warriors, that might be expecting a little too much from the guy. We'll have to see what actually happens. Now, Gordon Hayward, maybe a little bit of a disappointment. He played well, but you'd expect in a series like this to step it up a little bit more. But then again, Golden State's a damn good defensive team. It's tough. But Utah still pushed them to a Game 7. I'm pretty excited for that one in real life. I could see the Jazz pushing them to a Game 6. Now, if we look at the Rockets and the Spurs, San Antonio barely edging them out. Kawhi Leonard not putting up the scoring total you would expect. It's kind of an infamous thing in 2K where shot tendencies don't entirely make sense. Like Paul George's shot tendency is at like a 75. So, I don't know, 2K doesn't like guys to put up a lot of points. But Kawhi still put up 19, and San Antonio with a more balanced attack going through the Rockets in 7. I mean, James Harden didn't even go that crazy either. Only 19 points for him. You know, I do have to say, this series has been a struggle for me to predict because it's like the Rockets don't have the superior athleticism that has done the Spurs in the past. The Spurs defend the three-point line extremely well, but there's a difference between defending the three-point line well and being able to defend what the Rockets do. That's going to be a hell of a series, man. It really is. Now, for the Celtics and the Wizards, this one went 6 games. Isaiah Thomas put up, you know, those are numbers that you would expect from him. I am looking to see how the Wizards are going to defend him moving forward because, I mean, you can't put John Wall on him the entire time because you need Wall to do a lot of things offensively for you. Al Horford was damn good in this, as well as in Game 1. I think the only big guy who could really defend Horford for them would be Markieff Morris, and if he's not going to be playing, that's going to be very tough on them. So they could have a tough time with Horford moving forward, but we'll see if Scott Brooks has some crazy adjustments that he can make moving forward. Bradley Beal, the top scorer. John Wall still had 18 points and 11 assists. That's pretty damn good from John. The question is, like, is there going to be someone else who can really be a big offensive player for them in this series? I mean, I expect everything from Wall and Beal, and Otto Porter's going to be an efficient, like, 14-point scorer. Can Kelly Oubre hit some big shots? Can Bogdanovich hit some big threes off the bench? You always need, like, that one other guy when you want to win a playoff series. We're just going to have to see. And now if we can head on to the Raptors and the Cavs. Raptors pushed them to 7, and the two top dudes, Lowry with 25 and 8, and DeRozan with 21, 8 rebounds and 8 assists, unless I'm blind. I don't know if DeRozan can produce that sort of all-around production. But hey, man, it seems that the Raptors, who there's been some valid questions about their confidence or poise in the playoffs. It seems they were ready for the Cavs. They were not able to beat them, but going to a Game 7 is impressive nonetheless. Of course, this is 2K we're talking about. And LeBron was LeBron. That's the crazy thing, is that it seems like no matter what sort of adversity LeBron is going up against, injuries or whatever, his ability to close the gap between him and the opposing team, it's just ridiculous. I mean, 2 years ago against the Warriors, pushing it to a Game 6 without Kyrie and Love. I remember down 2-1 to the Bulls, and Kyrie Irving was playing on one leg, and he didn't have Kevin Love. So according to 2K, the conference finals are going to be the Warriors and the Spurs, Cavs and the Celtics. Are they actually going to be right? I don't know, but I'm pretty damn excited for this round 2.